Like to call to order the regular city council meeting for October 2nd, 2019, 6:20 p.m. Madam, roll call.
Mayor Ronnie Felder.
Here.
Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson.
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel.
Here.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy.
Here.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier. Here. Councilperson Douglas Lawson.
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans.
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present. City Attorney Don Nguyen.
Here.
You may proceed.
We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Felder.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Madam Chair, if I can have the clerk read the additions to the public.
Madam Chair. The addition, deletion, substitution, and revision sheet has been provided. Item number 2, parent A, awards of presentation. Added by Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson is a presentation by Vesco on the armored residential containers. And there's a substitution for item number 7 regarding the list of reclassifying, regrading, and deleting certain classified and unclassified positions.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, without looking at, the classification list that we have, what exactly is the material change from what was posted on the agenda we have in front of us?
Madam Chair and members of the council, the only change was one of the positions was an error. There was a Scribner's error on the development services engineer position. The addition is here is it's crossed out under classification or range 23, and it's inserted on range 22, development services operations manager. Originally, in the published agenda, it actually had the development services operations manager crossed out, as well as the development services engineer. So that was just a minor correction.
Are there,
Follow-up.
go ahead.
So, well, I'll reserve that question for when we actually take up the item.
All right, anyone else? Additions, deletions, substitutions? Disclosures by council?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I've had several meetings with the Hammerhead Productions people.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair, if I may, Resolution 9619, the resolution for the U.S. Census Bureau, if we can consider taking that item under consent, as you've heard the presentation already. The representative is here and can speak under the consent docket, but that is more so a procedural item.
Any other disclosures? So what number are we going to make the consent one, Ms. Anthony?
Madam Chair, it would remain as number 15. We'll just
Okay.
place it up on the consent agenda.
All right. All right, can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So
We'll
moved.
move with adding number 15 to consent.
Yes.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier. Yes. Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilperson so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do we have any
No, Madam
Does-
Chair.
He didn't put it in a card for the, did he want to speak for the census? No. Anyone have questions for the census? All right. Can,
One question, Madam
go,
Chair.
go ahead.
I just wanted to ask him about the status of, for people who are looking for jobs, working with the census.
Give us 1 minute. We need to have a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Census is recruiting more than 400,000 people for jobs. These jobs mostly are going to be starting in the month of March of 2020 and may go as far as August of 2020. This is what we call non-response follow-up staff, people who will go knocking on doors or ringing bells for homes that did not respond to the census. Understand that we hope that that number will go way down because we hope that many people will respond online or by the phone, which wasn't an option 10 years ago. And for the city of Riviera Beach, with a pretty low response rate in general in 2010, I'm hoping that we get up to 100%.
All right, anyone else? All right,
Thank
thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, that's the end of our consent agenda. Unfinished business, petitions and communications for filing,
None.
awards and presentations, item number 1.
Annual Florida League of Cities Conference presentation by the mayor and council. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right. So for item number 1, quite a few of us attended the Florida League of Cities Conference, which is held annually either in Fort Lauderdale or in Orlando. And you have a number of mayors and staff members as well as council people that attend throughout the state. It provides an opportunity for us to network, but more importantly for us to gain a lot of insight as to how other cities are getting work done. And there were a number of us that attended, and so we just wanted to be able to provide an update as to what it was that we learned while we were there and how we can best implement some of this from what we learned. And Dr. Botel was the teacher who's retired, who had time to do the PowerPoint for all of us, so we'll be on her team.
We're going to move very quickly through this. It was a very exciting conference, and we did learn an awful lot. Some of us were newbies and went to the first-time attendee session where we learned more about the Florida League of Cities. This one on Water Reimagined, Unleashing Your Government Work for us to innovate was very interesting. The town of Altamont Springs actually takes their wastewater and turns it into drinking water. I'm not recommending that for Riviera Beach necessarily. We know we have problems with our water, but this was very interesting how they went about doing that. We learned a lot from this social media, leveraging your social status, about what not to do online, the things to be careful about, because this is a new age and new technologies, and we learned how to be careful when responding to other people's Facebook posts, for example. So that was a very valuable session. This one, of course, many of the sessions we were in, they referenced Riviera Beach and our problems with cybersecurity. And this one, we were proud to be able to say that we actually did have insurance, and we did not pay as a city the demands that were made on us because we had insurance. So it was nice for us to be able to tout the fact that we were smart. This opening general session, we had a surprise visit by the governor, who talked about his vision for the state, the future of our state. It was very nice to hear from him. This one was very interesting. This was about delivering sustainable, prosperous, inclusive future cities through technology. It explored differences that different smart city strategies. And you know, we are a part of the Palm Beach North Chamber Smart Cities, Smart and Connected Cities initiative. So this was very near and dear to our hearts. This one was very interesting because we have an opportunity zone in Riviera Beach, and we learned a lot about how other opportunity zones are touting their virtues and inducing developers to come and develop in their opportunity zone because it's such a great tax benefit for people. So this was very, very interesting. They provided us with some really great examples. At the a breakfast meeting for the Gold Coast League of Cities. We heard from the South Florida Water District people. They are new. As you may know, the governor appointed a whole new board for the South Florida Water District, so we heard from one of the people on that board. Our one and only Kashamba Miller Anderson was a delegate to this business session, and she was our voting member in that session, so we were happy to be there to support her. The second general session we attended had a speaker by the name of Josh Linkner, who spoke about innovation and the need for leaders to become disruptors. And his was a really interesting presentation as well. And that was how we spent our time, pretty much.
Yes. Anyone would like to add anything to it? And there were a variety of sessions that we could choose from, and so we tried to make sure that we all kind of touched, as many as we could, and just, be able to select items that we thought we would be able to bring some information back and put it to work when we got back. So know that we learned a lot, even though they were being very shy about talking about what they learned. But they really enjoyed it. And also we had a representative that came from Youth Empowerment that brought a few students up to go to the session for the Youth Council. And so from that, we'll be springboarding into our Youth Council development here. So that was a very good experience for the students that did attend. I think they had a wonderful time because they got a chance to meet other students throughout the state with the Youth Councils in the other cities. And so that is the recap for our Florida League of Cities conference. All
Madam
right.
Chair?
Yes.
Just wanted to add, there was 2 workshops that we also attended, the Building Racial Equity in our city, and I was kind of thrilled to see that on a state level, that the League of Cities was actually bringing this topic and discussing it, and talking about equity is about fairness and providing people with resources and opportunities. And in addition to that, they were also discussed P3s as well, and that discussion about P3s was something that we're really looking to aggressively within the city. So those are just 2 additional workshops that we also visited, that I saw as well.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, Dr. Botel. We appreciate you get an A+, and your colleagues should be thanking you for that. Item number 2.
Riviera Beach Workforce Development Task Force, presented by Councilperson Chair Pro Tem Dr. Julia Botel.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So for a little over a year now, we've had a Riviera Beach Workforce Development Task Force. And tonight I want to give you a brief overview of how the task force is comprised, its mission, and some of the success stories that we've enjoyed. So I'm going to use this little presentation to do that. First of all, we know very, very much that businesses in Riviera Beach are in need. Some of the reasons that we know this are 70% of construction-related companies are having trouble, you probably read about this in the paper recently, having trouble finding workers. More than half of the trade workers are aging out, and so we need to begin training people in our city to fill these trade jobs. There aren't enough blue-collar workers to fill our nation's jobs. Kids who go off to college these days oftentimes drop out after having spent maybe a year there and racking up a big college debt. If they chose to do trade work instead, they'd be a lot better off from a fiscal standpoint. Only 9% of high schoolers are even thinking about vocational schools in lieu of college. So we've got a big job to do if we want to convince kids that trades are a good option for them. 72% of high school students would rather work for themselves. Sure, they want to be the boss. They can be the boss if they own their own company, if they're an electrician or a carpenter or in one of the trades. And in the next 5 years, there'll be 68% more job openings in infrastructure-related fields than there are people to fill them. And as a matter of fact, from what we learned from our meetings with the people the business owners in Riviera Beach, they have a dire need for well-trained workers. We also know that our community is in need. Riviera Beach is one of the last destinations in South Florida to rebound from the recession. The poverty rate in Riviera Beach, as many of us well know, is 56% higher than the national average. The income per capita is lower by far than the national average and by the Florida average. More than 7,770 people in Riviera Beach live below the poverty level. And now I learned today this is now over 65% of Riviera Beach residents live in rented homes. We have an opportunity, if we do the right kind of thing with training, to move more people into home ownership than into than having been renters. And in addition, if you go off to college and you don't finish, you're still saddled with that debt. and many families, particularly those in Riviera Beach who are living in poverty, can't afford that kind of college tuition. Now, you might ask, why is this task force unique? What's different about it? I mean, surely people have done this kind of thing before. But we're asking businesses what they need in workers, and then we're preparing our people to be those workers. We're getting participation across a whole variety of business sectors, across a variety of educational levels. We're getting participation across all groups who need employment, including the ones that I mentioned here, returning citizens, chronically unemployed, veterans. And we're working aggressively to bring those groups together in alliance for the common good. What's our mission? It's really pretty simple. Help Riviera Beach businesses find qualified workers and help Riviera Beach citizens find careers. And I say careers intentionally, not just a job. You know, it's easy enough to find a job, but we want people to find careers that will sustain them for their lives and be able to make a home in Riviera Beach. We want to prepare Riviera Beach citizens for employment, including young people, chronically unemployed, and so forth. We want to assist citizens in finding training opportunities, match business owners with qualified workers. And the structure of our task force is this. We have a leadership team consisting of myself, Sammy Brown, who's in the back of the room today, who's our chief youth liaison, and the newest member of our team, Dr. Jean Wibby, from whom you'll be hearing in just a few minutes about her new role as Director of Economic Development and Business Development in the city. We have a number of business sector leaders that have been working with us. Captain Rich Brochu from the Florida Fishing Academy heads the marine sector. Rick Morrell from Tropical Shipping heads logistics. Ezra Saffold heads construction. Banking and finance is headed by Pierre Rodriguez. Healthcare is headed by Vida Boone at the VA hospital. Roger Amadon from the Marriott Singer Island heads up travel and tourism. John Hauser, Elite Auto Body, does automotive and miscellaneous. And we just brought on board for manufacturing Matt Rocco, who's the head of the South Florida Manufacturers Association. He's a great new addition to our team. And we're considering adding government as a business partner, and that's going to be Jonathan Evans heading up that team. Ha, he doesn't know that till just now. We also have a good number of strong education partners. The Palm Beach County School District has been a great partner to us. You may know some of these faces, the principals over at Inlet Grove High School, the principal and the team of students from Palm Beach Gardens High School, headed up by Sammy Brown. JFK Middle School is one of our new partners. That's the principal over there. And the folks from South Tech have been good partners to us. We also have higher education partners. Palm Beach State College, that's the provost of Palm Beach Gardens campus on the right, and the president of the college, Dr. Ava Parker, there on the left. They've been excellent partners to us, thanks in very large part to Dr. Jean Wibby, who had been with the college when we were doing some of this initial work with them. Florida Atlantic University, and other education partners, including the Alpha Education Foundation, Florida Training Services, which you know has an organization, classes up at North Tech. Seagull Services, which is an organization that works with the handicapped. Career Source, which provides some of our funding. The Florida Fishing Academy. And we have a number of young adult and returning citizen partners, and you may know some of these folks, Ty Hanna, our own Ori Bullard with the Reentry Center, Big Brothers Big Sisters, our own Valerie Grimsley in Youth Empowerment. We've been working closely with the VA hospital and with the Corrections Department. So I want to focus for just a few minutes on some of the success stories that we've had. And as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Jean Wibby was very, very instrumental in establishing a Palm Beach State College Marine Service Technology Program. This came in large part from the work we did as a workforce development task force and her bringing the college to the table. And we're really so happy that they now have at the college, delivered at the Lake Worth campus, a marine skills program, a marine training program that provides students with the knowledge and skills needed to get employment in the marine industry, which is one of our strongest industries in Riviera Beach. They can get jobs as marine technicians in dealerships, service shops, boat maintenance facilities, and the like. The second of the success stories I'm really excited about, as an educator, I felt that we needed to get down to the 8th grade level. In the 8th grade here in Riviera Beach, most of our kids go to JFK Middle School, and this is the year when they make decisions about where they're going to go to high school. And so we started this program. Yesterday was our first day, and it was great to see. We had about 35 kids there. What we're going to do is have 8 Riviera Beach businesses over 8 months go in there and work with the kids. They'll do a 60 to 90-minute presentation on the first 3 Tuesdays of each month after school. They'll go in and make a presentation. Last night, tropical shipping, which is the month of October. First, they started with a video about tropical shipping. And then they had some great little toys to play with, showed the kids about. Last night was the folks who do all the work in the yard. So the gentleman who presented was a guy who runs the cranes. And they gave each student a handbook like this one right here, and it actually lists the salaries that they can make. And I will have to inform you that a crane operator can make as much as $39.09 an hour. So some of us who spent our years in college are now saying, why did I do that? Why didn't I just learn to be a crane operator? But the kids were very attentive, and they got a lot out of it. And you may recognize the gentleman to my left here in this picture who attended last night, and also Alfred Fields, because at the end of the session last night, we talked about the need for mentors for these kids. It's so important that they have adult role models in their lives who will follow them and be sure that they're on track. The 4th Tuesday of the month, in this case Tropical, will be a field trip to whichever company or industry hosts that month. So we'll be going to taking all those kids out to tropical shipping right here in Riviera Beach to see what it looks like out there and what it's like to work there. And then the following night, we'll have dinner with the parents, and that will be the Wednesday night, last Wednesday in the month, where high schools and colleges will present their course offerings. So kids in the 8th grade will begin to think about where they want to go to high school so that they can learn about these trades, and where they want to go eventually to college to get advanced degrees in some of these trades. Another exciting success story we've had is that we're going to be delivering Palm Beach State CCCs, or college credit certificates, right here in Riviera Beach. We have a classroom at our own Public Works building. That's Mr. Evans in the background. He showed us that classroom. It's still got the tags on some of the furniture, so it's really a beautiful, practically new classroom, and that's where we're going to be delivering these trade-related courses. We'll deliver 2 classes between January and July of 2020 in one of these 3 2 of these 3 areas: Business Specialist CCC, which is a 12-credit course of study; Entrepreneurship, which is a 12-credit; and IT Technician, which is 18 credits. And we'll be able to serve about 50 Riviera Beach residents who will come away with a CCC. The college will provide bus service if folks want to go down, rather want to go up to the Palm Beach Gardens campus for anything, and the college will also help us have people apply for tuition assistance. Prior to those classes, we'll be delivering a business readiness skills training in November of 2019. So anybody who signs up for these classes will have a chance to get some little business readiness in advance of those classes. In early October, in fact, probably this week, Sammy has been working on this survey. We'll be sending out a survey for community preferences to see which 2 of those 3 courses most of the community wants to take, and what time of the day is best to deliver the courses, and so on. So we're really excited about that. We've done an analysis of Riviera Beach businesses with over 1,400 companies, working with the CRA and the finance department. That information in that list includes websites, contacts, the number of employees. And the next step will be to collect information on women and minority business status for each of those companies. One of the most exciting things we've done is to have regular task force meetings. These are some pictures from one of the task force meetings we had over at the Marina Event Center. We typically have 50 to 60 participants, and that's growing. We collect data at those meetings from each of the industry partners about their employment needs, and then we share that information with the education partners. And then the education partners provide information about coursework and get feedback. This is exactly the system we used prior to having Palm Beach State College set up that marine training program down in Lake Worth. Rybovich and Viking came to the initial meetings. They told Dr. Wibby exactly what they needed. She came back with a proposal. They said, no, we really want this, this, and this. She modified the proposal, and that's how that program was born. And so we're excited about that. We solicit feedback from our Youth Advisory Council. There they are with Sammy at their lead. And we use that time to update the group on our progress and do some strategy and networking. We recently had a job fair with North Tech and Youth Empowerment, where we had a bunch of people over at a group of people at the Marina Event Center. About 50 citizens attended and registered. We had virtual reality demonstrations. Here's me learning how to do a forklift, but really the most talented person. Oh, I thought I had you in here, Kashamba. Wait a minute, did I skip through it? Wait. Oh, gee, Kashamba learned how to be a welder, and I thought I had her picture in here. Did I pass it? Oh, boy, I'm sorry. All right, Kashamba was the best welder, we have to admit. She wonders why she went to college, because, hey. We're also having a partnership with the VA hospital. The VA hospital is the largest employer in Riviera Beach, and Palm Beach Gardens High School actually has 2 medical track vocational programs. One of them is a group of kids who does their clinicals at Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. These are the kids who are taking AP Biology, AP Physics. These are the kids who are med school destined, okay? The other group of kids are kids who are maybe going to be X-ray technicians, possibly nurses, other areas of medicine. They needed a place to do their clinicals. Palm Beach Gardens Hospital couldn't accommodate them anymore. So we brokered a meeting between the high school administration and the VA hospital to establish a program that would allow our students to do their clinicals at the VA hospital. And we had a little bit of a hiccup there. Right now the hospital has to do a little bit more investigating into what the federal guidelines will allow, but we hope that that program will come to fruition. We've had a number of meetings with we call the Hard to Hire group, which are organizations that work with citizens in Riviera Beach who are returning citizens or the handicapped. And we brought those people together so that we can coordinate those services for them. We actually established a protocol for approaching local business owners who are willing to hire felons. And so those are a couple of the success stories that we've had. And now I'd like to transition to what can the council do. We really would like you to reconfirm council support for the Workforce Development Task Force. We know that we had the go-ahead, the green light from the past council to do whatever it took to get this job done, and we'd like to have that same thing from you. We'd like to have you approve the city manager provide some funding. So far, the funding for everything we've done has come out of my promotional dollars and my travel dollars, and I'd like to try to reserve some of that in case there are things I need that for, so I hope that the city manager will provide that. And we ask you to be task force ambassadors within your own individual communities. Urge the youth in your districts to take advantage of the opportunities. Inform your parents about them. Consider using your community benefit funds to establish scholarships for your district, because while the college will help us get some tuition assistance, it might not be. You might be able to go the last mile for people. Drop in on training classes to show your support. They'll be right over there at the Public Works Building. Nominate job seekers for tuition aid. So in a nutshell, that's what we've been doing for the last a little more than a year with the Riviera Beach Workforce Development Task Force. Dr. Wibby will be taking over much of these responsibilities, and can we just transition right to her presentation? Dr. Jean Wibby, Director of Workforce Development, Business Development, whatever.
Thank you. And Dr. Votel is a true champion for the city as well as all of you, but that's a lot of work, that Workforce Development Task Force. I've been there, I've been to the meetings.
Can you move her mic over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a great, great, great project.
All right.
Madam Chair, if I may, before we get into Dr. Wibby's presentation, we know that economic development, workforce development is a priority of this council, and working with our business community, addressing some policies, procedures, but overall customer service is a major priority for us, because we want to experience some of the growth that our neighbors to the north and neighbors to the south are experiencing. You have $3 billion worth of economic growth and development in Palm Beach Gardens and $3 billion worth of growth in West Palm Beach. And so we anticipate that our community is poised for economic development. So when we were looking for someone to head up the economic and business development, we had to get a doctor to fix some of the situations that we had here. So we're excited to have Dr. Wibby comes with an abundant amount of experience, and I spoke to about 6 to 8 people throughout the community, and invariably her name was one or two on the top list of folks that we should really try to bring in. So we're very fortunate to have someone with her capabilities and skill sets on the team, and she is looking forward to, and she has already hit the ground running. So without further ado, Dr. Wibby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans. And I have enjoyed working with everyone here for the past 2 weeks, and everyone's been great. So thank you very much. And I want to talk to you today, which hinges on the workforce development presentation, that in order to have a vibrant, excellent city of business and thriving economic growth, you have to have a workforce pipeline. People want to come to cities and they ask about where am I getting my employees from if they're going to make an investment in moving their company or business here. So it is a vibrant and growing city which takes pride in diversity of its environment and its people. It's celebrated cultural environment with great recreational facilities, a beautiful beach, great marina, and lots of creative and visionary government leaders right here in front of all of us. But the Economic and Business Development Manager, which is me, will work with the city manager and other partners to grow and retain a qualified workforce, advance business retention, and expand our business partnerships and collaborations so that the city can flourish and grow further. And here are some of the things that I would like to do. This is sort of a very brief outline, but it all relies on strengthening our tax base. The city has to have revenue in order to operate. And the more money that the city brings in through tax revenue, the more things you can do with innovations or problems that you need to solve, because money usually helps solve problems. So in order to do that, we're going to oversee a comprehensive economic development program for this city. It will include business retention, recruitment, and incentive strategies, along with finding new ways for business startups and entrepreneurial investment, retail and commercial development, right-size real estate investments to strengthen our commercial tax base, and promote and encourage programs that enhance the city's sense of place and quality of life. We want to continue to promote our neighborhoods that are clean and safe, support the development of affordable housing, and improve the maintenance of rental properties. And as you heard, there's 65% of our population here are in rents. So we want to improve properties that need that, to have placemaking strategies that include infrastructure development. And this, number 5, is my first task: provide efficient and effective permitting and inspection processes and other processes and policy that are a hindrance to the growth and development of commercial and residential business and homes. So we want to do that, and we want to ensure that our existing facilities are adequate to meet our community demand and reconfigure our public spaces so that people can get together, have a good time, and celebrate the wonderful city that they live in. And I would like to take some time to identify ways to take action, and I have some suggestions and ideas in the back, but what we want to do in the city of Riviera Beach, first of all, is to continue to establish our partnerships and connections, because without the partnerships and connections, we're not going to make anything happen. We have to work with each other. We have to collaborate with each other. There are multiple agencies and businesses that want to be a part of the exciting new growth that's going to be planned for this city. So I sent memos to all the city council, as you all know, and said, I'd like to meet with you. Please buy me lunch. I'm in the Public Works building. There's no place to eat. I will meet the city manager, mayor, and assistant city manager. Ms. Jacobs has been wonderful. The city offices and leaders, community connections already established. Who do we already know? Who's already on board with us that I should meet and talk to? What state agencies should we reach out to? And by the way, there's a lot of grant money. I already found 4 grants that we are able to apply for. There's a lot more. And then what other nonprofit organizations, government agencies, and institutions should we be partnering with? And Dr. Botel highlighted many of those. So why, again, are we doing this? It's for the city revenues and to address unmet housing, workforce, and social needs, and really to be our very best, to be a great destination and a great place to be. So this model is a model that I studied and developed for a whole year. It doesn't seem like that should have taken a year, but it kind of did, because this is a community impact partnership model. And what that means is that we are going to, the keystone you see at the top is Riviera Beach, leading all of this. because we want to have city development partners. And that includes those government agencies and officials, employers, community-based organizations, Career Source, which is the Department of Labor, all the economic development boards, BDB, all the chambers, community agencies, associations, colleges, and universities. These are important people for us, and that we're going to meet with them on a regular basis. But what we want to do first is review and improve our processes in the department that are connected to the city's development. And work with, this is not in any particular order, by the way. But to me, I want to, if I'm going to invest $13 or $15 million in a city, I want to make sure it's safe. I don't want to have to go to a city that I'm concerned about anything. I want to be able to just lock my door and leave my business and it's safe. So we want to work with the police to implement a safety plan and safety messaging for the city. So it will attract businesses, it will attract more people. And one of the things that is very important is to get data. What is the baseline data? What's happening here? What are the vacancies? I know that the CRA and the development office that we have some data, and I know the CRA is going to collect a significant amount of data that will give us baseline information on what's going on. How many commercial buildings do we have? What's the vacancy rate? What's the population look like? What's the average educational level? You know, an updated version of what we have here, so that we have we have a really good starting off place. The other thing is, we're going to work with the League of Cities more for some resources. They have a great database of resources and people who can help us move our agenda with examples. I've found in my work all throughout my life, and I'm the one who does this. I say to people, well, who else is doing that? You know, if we want to make a change, say we want to develop some new incentives to bring businesses in, and you're going to say to me, well, what other cities are doing that? You know, are we going to be the ones that go out and are on, you know, testing out something new and innovative, which is, there's nothing wrong with that? Or are there examples of where this worked in other places? So that's why we also need some data and information, and to work with these other agencies that can supply us with background of things that have already worked in other places. And to invite the economic development directors of the other cities to present their work and processes to us. I've heard 3 times already in the past 3 weeks presentations from West Palm, Boca, and Palm Beach Gardens, and then I also heard one from Delray and Boynton Beach. They are moving, and we're going to start moving. They're moving, but I would like for us to sit down with some of these folks and talk to them about what they've been doing. How did they do it? How did they get to where they are, and what did it take? So that's something that I'm looking forward to and hope you all will be interested in. And work closely with the CRA, write the grants that I mentioned, and review and amend public policy. This is very important, to amend our public policy so that it's not hindering private sector growth and it's not in the way of development. That's a big project, and probably is first and second on my list. It is in combination with department processes. And we want to have some P3 partnerships for the reconstruction of the city facilities and other deals, other things that we can make that will advance our goals for workforce and economic development. And so Mr. Evans said, well, why don't you tell the council, you know, what you're going to do in the next 60 to 90 days. I've already met or know half the people on this list in the past 2 weeks. So I'm going to move pretty fast, and I would like people to join with me if they think there's someone I should meet, or someone they know, or some developer, or something that's going on that we need to know about. I'd love to be a part of that and see if we can facilitate conversation and see where it takes us. But we have a lot of opportunity, a lot of opportunity. I'm excited, and I'm really very, very honored and pleased to be a part of this fine city that's going to grow and take off with the leadership that's here and all the interested and invested community members that are in the room and listening and participating. So we are going to be the best waterfront city. I think I might have missed this slide which says that, but we're going to rebuild and be the best waterfront city we can be. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Wonderful. Any questions or comments? All right,
Okay,
thank
thank
you. All right, item 2A.
Vesco Armored Residential Container.
So for this item, we have an organization that will talk a little bit about the container homes that are able to be developed, and we're going to give them about roughly 8 to 10 minutes for your presentation. And then if the council has any questions or comments, we can do so at that time. And we have Ms. Presley that's here along with her counterpart. Good evening.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for having us.
Good evening.
This is Sonia Presley. My name is Del Travieso. I'm with VESCO, which is Veteran Sustainability Community Operatives, and the Green Veterans. We're a veteran service organization, and we work combined in the community. We've been in this community for probably about 2 years. 5 years overall. We started with the USGBC, but our mission is basically to help communities transition to sustainability. And one of the ways to do that is with our Green Veterans Program. And that Green Veterans Program is centered around 4 pillars. And those 4 pillars, once again, are reintegration, and that can be anywhere from veterans reintegrating or formerly incarcerated coming back and reintegrating society. And then we have our second pillar, which is sustainability training. So we pride ourselves on training some of these individuals in these new fields, specifically green fields. We're both students of renewable energy and business. IT is represented here, but our group overall represents many disciplines, and we're totally focused on resiliency and sustainability. And then our third piece, of course, is sustainability training projects, and this is part of that, where we go into the community and we actually help low-income and moderate-income individuals, some veterans, some non-veterans. So far, in Riviera Beach, we've helped out Miss Youngblood, and we're helping out Mr. Kingdom coming up shortly. And then we have a lot of unfunded requests in the areas, specifically District 1, District 2, that we would like to see if there's any programs, or if the council doesn't have any programs, maybe if we can help them develop a program to address some of the needs in the community that are pretty bad. We got a lot of people that are living in substandard housing, roofs are leaking, very inefficient, so on and so forth. I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir, but we want to make sure that we're not ignored as far as the work we've been doing. And once again, I'd like to see if there's any resources available that you guys may be able to bring to the table. And then the last piece, of course, is what we do here, and this is VESCO, which is the profit arm of the Green Veterans. And specifically, we like to try to bring an industry to the area. And that industry is Corten Homes, Corten Steel Homes, steel fabricated homes. And basically, that's repurposing containers and turn them into homes. These homes are very robust, up to 210 miles an hour. Think about the tragedy just happened in the Bahamas. If we would have had a facility in place, we would have been able to help out right now. And that would have benefited not only the Bahamas, but Riviera Beach, with jobs, facility, and an industry that can help and provide a way forward as far as affordable housing is concerned. I know that's a big problem countywide and countrywide, actually, nationwide. So we like to see if we can at least start the conversation. Maybe there's some available land or opportunities where we can try to talk about bringing a manufacturing facility to the area. We're from here. We've done work in Tampa. We've done work in Palm City, Fort Pierce. So we've done a lot of these projects already, but we're local. We like to keep it local. And we like to bring that opportunity here at Riviera Beach. I think it's a great up-and-coming city with a lot of great opportunity. And I think it really would benefit not only us, but the city as a whole. So I want to go quickly through the presentation, but before I do that, I'm going to let Sonia get a couple of points in.
Just piggybacking again, my name is Sonia Presley with the Green Veterans Group, going on what Adele is saying, and you all have kind of tapped it out, and sitting in this council meeting, I've been welled up with fire just listening to the presentations coming through, because that's what we do. When we started out about 5 years ago, it was going into areas where the need was great. And what we focus here in Florida, as you know, we have an aging veteran population, and we also deal with those who are returning in, they're reintegrating, coming in, might as well say, leaving jail. So how do we engage them? How do we get them to work? Because they can go out and apply, and it's great that we're talking about these initiatives, but unless you look at a psychological approach in the community and you engage the people, the council, the business people can put all the things together, but if you are not engaging the population, you will fall short. Case point, talking about renting. Guess what? Riviera Beach is going to have renting for a while, and that's not a bad thing. But how about we focus where we have that joint partnership where we repair what's damaged, especially when it comes to residential properties. So although we're talking about building and putting in sustainability as we foster in this initiative along and move with the innovation, we also have to repair what is broken, because even if you fix that building, that individual they've not been treated. We're so much trauma right now. It's going to happen again. So we need to come with a solution approach. So rather you walk away tonight and say, oh, I really want to, let's get moving with the Vesco shipping container concept, which really the modular homes, you can make it look like anything. By the time Vesco is through, it looks like a cottage. But what you have is a cottage that floats, a cottage that can withstand 200 miles per hour wind. And it breaks my heart that I've been here in 30 years, and people have asked, well, why are you guys just now coming out? Well, we've been here. Tampa has no problem. The Midwest, they're already purchasing. They know the damage. Why can't we move over here? We have the aptitude, we have the people, we have the education, we have the resources. So thank you.
Thank you. Once again, Sonia, thank you. Like Sonia said, we've been in the area for a while now. And, maybe we just haven't connected with the right people. Or maybe the previous council couldn't support us the way we needed to be supported. But once again, we want to bring this to the commission. Everybody's aware. I've tried to get with each one of you guys individually. I have with some of you guys individually. But now you get to see what we do and how we do it. And hopefully this will be a path forward where we can continue to collaborate. And we're really looking for partnership with Riviera Beach in the sense that we're going to need some guidance. How do we navigate the political atmosphere, the business atmosphere, so on and so forth. We're a young organization, but our heart is in the right place. We want to do the right thing. But without further ado, I just want to show you some of the things that are possible. Right? I think I took myself out. I'm sorry.
So we have like a couple more minutes to get through the presentation.
No problem. Once again, hurricanes, we just talked about that. And the damage they've done. No. Screwdriver? Okay, there we go. So I don't have to explain these things. We're in a new climate paradigm with all that implies. So once again, we're proposing is modular metal home fabrication. This is not a new concept, but I think it's a concept that's time has come. And these are some of the benefits. Once again, we can reduce building and manufacturing time by 70%. We exceed all energy codes, sustainable designs. We're scalable, superior acoustic environments, and we're efficient. We have a HERS rating of 10 and below on our units.
Move your microphone a little over by you since you moved over.
All right,
Yeah,
sorry
you
about
can
that.
move it over, pick it up and just move it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so here's quickly some of the benefits. Hurricane up to 210 miles an hour wind resistance, seismic corrosion. I don't know anything that eats steel. Mold resistant, fire resistant, of course, is steel. We get great insulation factors, 40 on the roof, 24 to 30 on the walls. We're prefab. We can build them faster than anything. They can be elevated, of course. The economics of it are attainable. Fast construction, I already talked about that. We are the only ones that integrate solar PV with our units to make them sustainable, so they come with solar. And then, of course, we get the high efficiency scores. And another added benefit is that we can deploy for disaster reliefs. Here's some of our units that we're working on or we have worked on. And as you can see, these are regular homes, even though they're repurposed steel from shipping containers. You really can't tell unless I tell you. And then, once again, these are some of the density type configurations that we can go as far as neighborhoods or even disaster relief, where we can get high densities, medium densities, and even very high densities. So these are just some of the examples. Once again, this is the gold standard to what we're working for, which is a sustainable community model. And once again, we're working with several organizations in the area, Bosley and Henrietta Farms. We're working with True Fast and reintegrating program for ex-offenders with them. And this is a sustainable model that I think could encompass not only those returning, the affordable housing piece, but also sustainability as a whole, and in urban farming altogether. And once again, this industry, if we had a manufacturing facility, which is what we're hoping to attain here, when it comes to disaster relief, and these storms will keep coming, Riviera Beach could be the center, if we do it right, for some of these disaster relief efforts all over the country, where we can provide these on-demand units. Next. As far as dwellings, next, medical units, kitchen units, latrine, shower units. And once again, it all starts with manufacturing and supporting our initiative and services, and we'd like to continue the conversation. Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
what exactly are you asking of us?
Specifically, two things. One, it's land for a manufacturing facility so that we can bring the industry here. Right now, we're working in the central area, and it would be great if we could come closer to home. Two, to continue the funding, or should I say revamp it, that was going to come so that we can continue the service projects that we're commencing here in the city of Riviera Beach.
What funding was that?
The funding that was left over from, I want to say, maybe last fiscal year now, I should say, it was held up. And I don't know if this is the, to go into it, but I do know that in speaking with the city, it was held up with finance, and now that things have turned, it was not released. So maybe we can revisit that, even if we need to establish another time to present. But the point is to use the dollars to service those who are most in need. And right now seems to be some of the seniors that have homes and they're leaking and
How much
debilitating.
funding was involved?
Just a few. I want to say maybe it was 3,500 we were approved from and could not pick up,
Oh.
and that was to go for our service project. I would like to also state with us being nonprofit, we are volunteer-led, so all of the resources, we operate on donations. The project that we're carrying out Saturday here in the city is coming out of our donations.
Okay.
So thank you. So those two.
Any other questions? Well, what I would suggest, first of all, is to make sure you reach out to all of the council and mayor so that you all could have those one-on-one conversations if need be. I know I met you all some time ago, and not until recently, especially with the disaster that took place over in the Bahamas, did I realized that, this is something that, we probably need in Riviera Beach. And I know the manufacturing part of it is very key for those in the Caribbean because you have access to a number of mode of transportation in this area here. So, and with the nonprofit arm, I thought that was, something that we, everyone should be aware is available. We didn't have any public comment cards for this item, did we?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. So what I would suggest is that you all do make sure you reach out to each of the council and mayor so that you can speak with them, and then we can see, how we could be of help if that's possible.
Thank you, council members. Thank you very much.
Thank
very
you so much.
We've also left cards for you all to look at for more information.
All right, thank you. Item number 3, public hearing.
Resolution number 8419, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving plat application PA 1901 from Florida Power and Light, totaling approximately 88.68 acres, located at 2460 Port West Boulevard, associated with parcel control number 5642423633000000, providing for execution and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, if I can have Acting Development Services Director, Mr. Jeff Gagnon, present this item.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council staff. Jeff Gagnon, Acting Director of Development Services. As read into the record, we have a plat before you for consideration. It's associated with the FPL site located off of Port West Road, which is just east of Military Trail and north of 45th Street, just north of the jurisdictional boundary between West Palm Beach and the city of Riviera Beach. This is a larger aerial view of the site, which is called out here, highlighted in red. Overall, the property is approximately 88 acres in size, and what this replat will do is satisfy a condition of approval that was approved along with the site plan application, which was known as SP 1817, which occurred at the end of December of last year. So the current site, being that it's over 80 acres, it's currently broken up into 6 parcels, and what this replat will do is reconfigure it into 2 parcel tracts, a northern parcel and a southern parcel. The northern plat, which will consist of parcels A, B, and C, provided before you. The southern will be D, E, and F. And again, that will clean up the property boundaries, so that way when FPL comes in for future development, they'll have a good foundation to work from. Just for the record, attached as Exhibit A to the resolution, I believe it's A1, is the northern plat, which is 5 pages. And the southern plat, which is Exhibit A2, is 4 pages. So in summary, all parcels are owned by FPL. This replat is a condition of approval, will satisfy that condition of approval that was associated with the site plan approved in December. Our Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval of the plat on May 9th of this year, and city staff is recommending approval of the plat as well. The applicant and agent for the applicant is present if you have any questions, and I may answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, do public comment cards?
Fane Losman.
Fane Losman, Singer Island.
Good evening.
I have no problem with the replat. What I have a problem with the leadership that got us to this point. Planning and Zoning Board signed off on this in May 9th, 2019. That's 5 months ago. What's been going on for 5 months? One of the things I've discovered from the interim development director is he takes stuff and he hides it in his office. The plans for my 9,000 square foot home were in his office for 90 days. He refused to transmit them throughout the other departments. There's a leadership failure going on here with this individual, and he should not be making these presentations. You should identify someone else to make these presentations because his credibility is not there. Right this second, there's a probable cause affidavit signed by a detective, former detective from the PCU unit. This man committed a number of crimes. That's a probable cause. That's done. They haven't made a charging decision what to do with them, and that has politics.
Make sure we're talking about the item, Mr.
I'm talking about that. I don't think he's qualified. He doesn't have the integrity to make comments on items 3, 4, or 5 this evening. And evidence of that is not only the probable cause affidavit, evidence is also in, look at the timing on how he handles applications. FPL has business to do. Why did Planning and Zoning approve this in May and we're here in October? You know, what is a good reason? Maybe there is a good reason, but I haven't heard that. You have 30 days to approve a site plan for a home. It's been 5 months. We haven't received any feedback officially from this guy because he hides it. We need a change in leadership, and this is evidence. Unless he had the good reason why that sat around for 5 months, he needs to go. He's been interim for how many years now? Part of your job as city manager is to appoint some permanent department heads, and this guy is not one of them.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
All right, questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes, sir.
is this the same property that we revisited? I guess when you said December 2018, was that concerning the site master plan that
Yes,
we
sir,
did?
that's correct.
Okay, do you know if we ever came up with anything, because I had some questions about FPL and them commissioning vehicles at this location, and the ability that they had to pay per vehicle for each vehicle that was commissioned at that location, similar to how we tax our other businesses in the city that has vehicles?
I do recall that. I believe licensing has looked into it, and I believe it was resolved. I don't recall off the top of my head what that resolution was, but I'd be happy to provide that information.
Okay, all right, no problem. It's not relative to the plat, but I certainly would like to know, are we charging per vehicle for FPL? I know there was a concern about that there was a utility company and that they didn't have, I guess, the fee schedule that we had didn't provide for a per vehicle charge for utility companies, but I certainly want to revisit that. Also, Mr. Manager, can you take note of that? Because, we're dealing with issues where we have local businesses that have to pay per vehicle, and it's becoming quite costly, and they almost align with the same nature and classification of work. So I certainly want to see if we can bring that back up, but that's not exactly germane to this topic, but I definitely wanted to ask the question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier. Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 4.
Resolution number 8519, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving site plan application SP 1822 to reconfigure the existing warehouse, office, and showroom interior space and parking for Newman Windows and Doors located at 1649 Avenue L, associated with parcel control numbers 5643 4229 1101 60031 and 5643 4228 3101 60031, having an industrial future land use designation and a general industrial zoning designation, and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards for this item is now closed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, if I can have Acting Development Services Director, Mr. Jeff Gagnon, present this item.
All right.
Thank you, sir. As read into the record, we have a site plan application before the council. This is associated with an existing business operation who's looking to provide some renovations and improvements to the site. The location is just south of the former Public Works site for the city. It's at the southwest corner of West 17th Street and Avenue L, which is shown before you currently, highlighted in red. So overall, the total lot size is approximately 2.4 acres. It's approximately 35,000 square feet of building area, and there's site access from both West 17th Street and Avenue L. And this item is associated with the plat item, which is next on our council agenda for consideration. We have a color rendering of the site plan to provide council and the general public with a better understanding of some of the site improvements. There'll be new parking reconfigurations along the roadway. You can see a very heavy hand as far as the landscaping improvements, specifically at that corner of the intersection of 17th and Avenue L. So we're definitely looking forward for those improvements to occur. And being that this company specializes in windows, doors, we expect that there will also be some improvements to the architectural elevations of the building. There'll also be an interior showroom to provide opportunity to show products that are available for the public. For the record, the site plan is attached to the resolution as Exhibit A, and the landscape plan is attached as Exhibit B. So our Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended approval on September 12th of this year. And city staff recommends approval of the site plan with the following conditions. Condition 1 is that a 2-year landscaping performance bond for 110% of the value of landscaping and irrigation should be required before a certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion is issued. Condition 2, construction and landscaping improvements must be initiated within 18 months of the effective date of this resolution. Condition 3, this development must receive final certificate of occupancy from the city for all buildings and units approved within 5 years of the approval of the adopting resolution. Condition 4, all future advertising must state the development is located in the city of Riviera Beach. Condition 5, once approved, the resolution shall supersede any previous site plan approval resolutions associated with this property. Condition 6, City Council authorizes city staff to approve future amendments to the site plan administratively, so long as the site plan does not deviate greater than 5% from the originally approved site plan. And those 6 conditions of approval are what we would consider our boilerplate conditions that we associate with all of our site plans. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. The applicant and agent for the applicant is present as well.
All right. Public comment cards?
Fane Lozman.
Fane Lozman,
Good evening.
Riviera Beach. I supported this project before, and I think you should go for it.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, that completes public comments on this item.
All right, do we have any comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Watson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 5.
Resolution number 8619, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a plat application, PA 1803, to replat 2 contiguous lots associated with 1649 Avenue L, known by parcel control numbers 5643, 4229, 1101, 60031, and 5643, 4228, 3101, 60031, totaling 2.41 acres of land and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, there is public comments cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, members of the board, if I can have Acting Development Services Director, Mr. Jeff Gagnon, present this item.
Thank you, sir. So this is the sister item to the site plan that was just approved by council. What this will do is replat the 2 existing parcels into one master parcel, which just cleans up the site, to be consistent with the site plan. So again, before you is the current lot configuration. Approximately 85% of the site is called out as Lot 1, and there's a sliver lot to the west as Lot 2. The replat will configure it into one lot in totality. So for the record, the plat is attached to the resolution as Exhibit A. And again, it will really just clean up that boundary line, so it will appear as one master lot. Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval to City Council unanimously on September 12th of this year, and City staff recommends approval of this plat application.
All right, we'll go to public comment cards.
Fane Lozman.
Fane Lozman, Singer Island. There's this one question I had, and that's the future land use showed it industrial. And the zoning showed it general industrial. So is the replat going to be what? I would like an answer to that, because that's applicable to a couple other things.
We'll
that are
come
going on
back
in
to
Singer
it
Island.
after
We
your
got future
comments
land
are
use
over.
industrial, zoning designation, general industrial. How is that being balanced? Or that doesn't have to be balanced if it's in the industrial zone, but I'd like an explanation for that.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, that completes public comments.
Questions or comments from the board? All right, Mr. Evans, do you have an answer, or Mr. Gagnon?
Mr.
Answer.
Gagnon, if you can step up to the podium and address that question.
Yeah, the future land use designation as industrial is consistent with the general industrial zoning designation. The plat item before you has no bearing on either one of those items.
All right. All right. If there are no other questions from the board, we'll go to Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier, Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Go into public comment public comment section, council. Public comment should be restricted to issues, matters, or topics pertinent to the city of Riviera Beach. Please be reminded that the city council has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance of the council chambers. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. And you will have 3 minutes, so please be mindful of that. Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, the acceptance of public comment cards during this section of the agenda is now closed. Alan Schultz, B. Larson, Fane Lozman.
Alan Schultz,
Good evening.
5480 North Ocean Drive. We'll try this again. Sadly, I'm here tonight to bring a potentially defining injustice to your attention. Beginning in mid-2018, I began providing consulting services to Councilwoman Botel related to the formation, my co-chairmanship, and day-to-day management of the Riviera Beach Workforce Development Task Force. For 14 months now, I've worked side by side with Councilwoman Botel to establish business, community, and educational partnerships aimed at bringing world-class workforce training to Riviera Beach, and to represent displaced groups such as hard-to-hire individuals and returning citizens. Side by side, Julie and I established business sector leadership in 8 categories and recruited top Riviera Beach-based business leaders to represent each of these sectors. Together, we formed alliances with educational partners, such as Palm Beach State College, to provide training, which the task force is due to begin rolling out in early 2020, as Julie alluded to in her presentation. My day-to-day role as co-chairman of the task force, which was not mentioned, which was really rich, was to study and categorize the city's businesses and their workforce needs, coordinate tactical implementation, and establish goals, and to arrange a wide array of meetings, including the extremely well-attended task force assemblies that Mrs. Botel highlighted. In 2018, then city manager, interim city manager, processed and paid all of the invoices for my 2018 services based on a presentation Councilwoman Botel made to council on October 17, 2018, where the previous council pledged their support for, quote, whatever Dr. Botel needed to keep moving forward. Then ironically, on September 11th, 2019, and within days of several in-person and email exchanges I had with Mr. Evans, where he, I, and Dr. Botel discussed my ongoing proposed role, Julie forwarded me an email from Mr. Evans stating that, quote, the initiative, that is workforce development, and my proposal to establish a formal business council at Mrs. Botel's request should, quote, no longer be continued as previously established, since this initiative is to be led by staff. Council, while I recognize the city's right to insource, please try to imagine the humiliation of reading about the termination of your services in a forwarded email not intended for your consumption from Mr. Evans. The coup de grace takes place on September 25. Dr. Botel calls me to inform me, with the city attorney's office present on the call, I was still not represented, but they appeared to feel it was necessary to represent themselves. Mr. Evans is not going to pay the invoices that he requested you to provide him, and that she was not confident about bringing the matter up this evening because she was uncertain she could secure enough votes now that the city has ended the relationship. I ask you, council, for a moment, forget the money I am owed. How could such good deeds and efforts, which created such success and forward momentum, warrant such treatment? I assure you that I'll be back to further expose Mr. Evans and Dr. Botel's obvious intention to use the valuable work product I provided in 2019 without paying for it.
Thank you.
Bonnie Larson, Fane Lozman, Dolores Dawson.
Bonnie Larson, good evening. That was a wonderful presentation by the young lady who's going to be the business development person. I didn't get her name, and it's not on here, so if we could have her name somewhere. She was energetic, she was organized, and she seems excited about moving Riviera Beach forward. We haven't had anyone doing that, so I'm excited about it too. I have a couple of suggestions, as usual. P&Z meetings. I caught one on TV, and it was talking about abandoning 13th Street. I would highly advise against doing that. There were a couple of problems with it, and the people on the P&Z, when they were voting, 2 of them said, gee, we'd like to have had more information, but there was no more backup. There was no more information, so they were asked to vote without having very important documentation, and that being when you abandon that 13th Street, that kicks in to a land swap, which this council may or may not agree with. And it also does away with our parking at the marina, a lot of our parking. So I just think that staff, P&Z people, they're volunteers. They spend their time, they spend hours and hours. They need all the information they can get. They shouldn't be asked to vote if all the information is not available. They asked for a copy of that contract, proposed contract for a land swap, but it wasn't available. Also, I asked some friends of mine get the notices about what they're going to be talking about on the P&Z meetings. And if it's something they think I'm interested in, they tell me about it. If they think I'm not interested in it, they still tell me about it. So I called and said, did you get something about the abandonment of 13th Street? Did you get a notice ahead of time about that meeting? And they said no. Ms. Shepherd was here last week or 2 weeks ago, and she said she got her package like a day before or maybe 2 days before. That's not enough time. They have to do a lot of consideration when they're making decisions, and they want to make the best decisions. You can tell by the way they speak about the items, and they're very interested. But they need to have that information. So my suggestion is don't have the P&Z unless they get it a week, 2 weeks in advance. There's nothing urgent there, certainly. So if they don't have all the information and they don't get their packages and they don't have it advertised, don't do it. Don't make those people come in here and spend their own time. There are a lot of notices downstairs, and this has been happening for years and years, the notices about meetings and this, that, and the other. There's never a date on them. There's never a date posted, and there's never, hardly ever, a signature. Business 101 says you put a date on a memo. You say who it's to and from, what it's about. You just do that. You don't put up an undated document downstairs. Now, on Thursday, I drove by here. I spoke with some of you about this, and on Thursday, out on the electronic board, it said meeting tonight, and special CRA meeting tonight, which was Wednesday, and special meeting. It was Thursday, and it's advertising.
Thank you.
It's advertising a day late and $1 short. We need to coordinate that. Thank you.
Thane Lozman, Dolores Dawson, Doretta Paul.
Thane Lozman. Before I won my 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, I was known as a corruption fighter in Dade County. I was recognized by many media organizations for having cleaned up the corruption in the North Bay Village Commission. I have not been happy with Mr. Evans since he's been back, in that my house permit for the 9,000 square foot house is 5 months in the process, and we have received no formal response from anybody in the building department. And Gagnon sat on the plans for 90 days. And you can confirm that by talking to the assistant building official. So I had warned Mr. Evans, don't come back to Riviera Beach. You're just going to get yourself in a real mess. So I've done some more research. Friday is going to be one of the biggest days in this city's history in the last few years. Friday at 8:30, Judge Glenn Kelly is holding a 1-hour evidentiary hearing. I know Mr. McCoy knows what that's all about, to determine if the settlement agreement against Mr. Evans will be enforced. Now, you know, bringing him back here with a 3-2 vote. The people in the minority, Mr. Lawson and Mr. McCoy, you should probably attend that hearing to see what's going on. Because I don't think, after I've studied that file intensely, I don't think you're going to make it. I think the court is going to uphold the settlement agreement, and we're going to have to get a new city manager. Or in the alternative, it's quite clear that there's been fraud committed in the settlement agreement, that you received the consideration that did not uphold your part of the bargain. And there's apparently a conspiracy between 2 council members, or alleged conspiracy. So on the criminal side, if you went on the civil side, I don't think you went on the criminal side. I think you need to resign. Because if you hang around here and you get taken down criminally, your future in working in municipal government is going to be finished. I don't think you have any idea how much trouble you're in there, Mr. Evans. And you should have taken my advice and not come back. But now that you've come back, a lot of things are coming out of the woodwork that you'll learn about Friday morning. And I don't see how you survive either the enforcement of the settlement agreement or you survive a criminal proceeding. I think you're going to destroy your life, and I think you really need to take a long, hard look about trying to salvage what you can and not let this fight it out, or you'll be finished in the public sector.
Thank you.
Dolores Dawson, Doretta Polk, John Miller.
Chair, members of the council, Dolores Dawson, organizer of the Southside Coalition, and the Concerned Mothers. I'm here to thank the city of Riviera for all of the things that you've done for us and for the city of Riviera. But I'm really here to thank Mr. Evans for coming back. We remember you, Mr. Evans, when we had a celebration in the garden, and I know you did a lot of things to help us make old ladies happy. And we thank you too for coming over to the dedication of the ribbon cutting of Riviera Beach Heights Community Center. We thank you for that too. We remember all of the things that you said to make us feel good. And two, I'm thankful that Omar, he's not here, but he asked me to welcome you. When you first came, I got so excited, I really forgot what I said, but I welcome you here tonight. And we are grateful to Mr. Blankenship and Officer Rosier for all of the things they do to help to make us have a good part. God bless you, and we thank you.
Doretta Polk, John Miller.
Good evening, Council. My name is Doretta Polk, and we're very elated that you are back, Mr. Evans, very. I want to talk to you a couple of little things I want to bring to attention. Mrs. Botel brought up that, I was looking at it prior to coming, about 65% of the people who reside in Riviera Beach are living under the poverty line. That's kind of heartening. Maybe it might be 60 or 65. I may be wrong, but there's a large number of people living under the poverty line. I'll put it at that. And there was a suggestion by Mr. Trodrick McCoy saying that we should start having fees for going over to Phil Foster Park. I think that's a very bad idea. Hope that will be taken off the table, because a lot of people can't afford. You see the statistics as about the living conditions of different people here in this Riviera Beach. A lot of mothers, families are suffering, and I think that needs to be taken off the table, that there should be no fees for going over there at the park, at the beach area. Okay, I want to know also, did the city sell the land on Broadway and buy Miami subs to the authority? Because they're gonna, I guess, gonna make some low-income housing. So I was just wondering, did we get any revenue from that? I didn't know. And I think also, another thing, we do need security when we come out to the meetings. We have, someone suggested, why do we have 3 people, security guards with wands? If we need 3 more, total of 6. For our safety, that's what we need. We also need, hopefully, the city manager and the interim Mr. Rosier will also have, as we leave out of these chambers, that continue with the security there, out there for our safety. And we need to also invest in probably security cameras out there. So in just case any vandalism, anything that goes on, for our own protection, all of our protection. Because there's some people have certain agendas, and it's just, you can see it through the schools, the shootings, and you go to concerts, the devastating things there, the synagogues, the churches. And another thing, one other thing about that light on 20th Street, I really think there's 3 churches there. We have a community there of senior citizens. We have the senior citizen building. Please, please do not make that a caution light. We will never get out in that intersection, and someone's going to get very hurt or either killed.
Thank you, Ms.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Miller.
John Miller, 1290 Manor Drive. I want to be positive. I might have to do a little bit. First of all, I went last night, me and Cheryl went to the event that the police put on. What a beautiful event that was, you know. We were really impressed. Mayor, all of you that were involved, the officer, what was it, Sergeant, what was his name, that put that together? I forget his name, but anyhow, it was really nice. You could see that the people it was really a nice event. All the people had fun, the kids had a ball, and that's what it's about. And isn't it nice to see the police officers with the youth, and see them as you know, not as authority, but they're friends, they're neighbors, they're mentors. The second thing, this workforce development thing, is fabulous. As a person that came out of high school in 1967 with nowhere to go, not going to go to college, I was lucky enough to get into an apprenticeship. I ended up going through my 4 years, working hard, going to school at night, and having a very lucrative career, very lucky. It was very hard work, but I do realize this, that if you can't get training, your success rate is really nil. So everybody doesn't have to go to college. We need more and more people to get trained. And I know it's starting, it's going to be business oriented at the end, which is great, but it's going to start off with the people. The youth, if you want to say the underemployed, people that maybe for a few years after high school are just kicking around with menial jobs and not having any direction. So this is great what you're doing. And if it brings business in, that's great. The last thing, and I'm not trying to be negative here, don't worry about people threatening you, because we brought you back, Mr. Evans. We wanted you back. And the people that got rid of you are gone. That tells you something. You look at the votes, the way it happened. Everybody sitting up there, you're doing a good job. Like I told you before, don't be intimidated by anyone, because guess what? You got not one person, but you got hundreds and probably thousands behind you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
Okay. Items tabled, none. Regular item number 6.
Resolution number 8719, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving the transfer of funds in the amount of $20,000 from contingency to the educational activity account and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr.
So moved.
Manager. Yes, I'm sorry, yes. You're right.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item is a procedural resolution consistent with the direction that was provided to staff at a previous city council meeting that takes the funds from fiscal year 2019 and carries it forward to fiscal year 2020. Consistent with this item, we do want to bring back a discussion item at your next regular meeting to discuss how the board wishes to appropriate those monies, whether it's by virtue of adopting a school or some type of initiatives. But this is basically memorializing the action that the board provided us previous. So staff recommends approval, and the finance director and myself are prepared to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions or comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Item number 7.
Unanimous vote.
Oh. We're rolling right along. She knew what I meant, yes.
Resolution number 8819, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the job classification list by creating, reclassifying, regrading, and deleting certain classified and unclassified positions pursuant to the 2019-2020 fiscal budget, effective October 1st, 2019, and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item before you is to memorialize the changes as it results to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget that consists of some reclassifications and regrades of some of the positions that are included in the budget. We have the interim human resources director, Ms. Eureka Young, here to provide some additional comments and answer any questions the board may have.
All right, questions or comments from the board?
Yes,
All right.
Madam Chair, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, can you refer back to the one that you said was a Scrivener's error? What number was that?
That particular position was, okay. That position, the position that is supposed to be deleted is the Development Services Engineer, which is in grade 23. We replaced that position with the Development Services Operations Manager, and that's at a grade 22. Originally, when the agenda item was published, it actually had a strike-through in the Development Services Operations Manager.
Okay. Mr. Evans, I want to suggest, I'm looking at, and this was really important for me because, and I'm not bragging, members, I've been on both sides of the litigation with the city, and I just know how much of a great job that our legal office does. But when I was looking at the classification of position 2001 inside the pay grade 25, I just can't see how that could possibly be in a pay grade that's lower than the Assistant Public Works Director. And my recommendation is to figure out what we can do to move that position number 2001 to that pay grade of 28.
Madam Chair, if I may, one of the things that we've included in the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget is about $300 or $300,000 for the opportunity to go into specific positions and look at our previous compensation and classification study and, in essence, reevaluate where positions are slated. So this particular position may invariably end up moving, but we wanted to be able to do some additional research to be able to, when we do shift it and move it, that we place it appropriately. Where it is poised right here, this was collaborations with the finance department, HR, and the legal department, where we think that position should be slighted at this particular moment until we go and look at a comprehensive salary study. So that was the safest place versus a situation whereby it ends up moving into another particular grade. So that's something that we are going to look at.
But Mr. Evans, and I certainly respect what you're saying, but my contention in deference of what you're saying is, specifically in our budget workshops, we talked about the need of adding another attorney to the city staff so that we can eliminate some of the outside litigation. So it shouldn't be so much of whether or not there's a financial thing, because I think, you know, if we put it in under 28, we ultimately will be saving money on the, I think it was professional services that's done in the city attorney's office, and then not only that, then also, I guess, professional services that's also done under your office. But, you know, if you just take a look at that grade 25A, and then also I seen grade 25 and also grade 28, the assistant city attorney is starting salary of $78,000. I don't see how we can even recruit attorneys that come to municipal government that not necessarily has a board certification, but I think we have 14 or 15 departments here, maybe more, but they have to provide legal counsel, contracts, review, litigation, and a number of different things. I just really would hope, and my question, and I'm gonna be quite frank with you, can we move position 2001 down to grade 28 at this point?
That is certainly a policy, a decision that the board can make. Also, I would tell the board that in the event that you do look to move that 2001 position, the senior city assistant city attorney, you have the position 1019, that is the assistant city attorney, which is the labor attorney in essence, that's at grade 23. So if it is the board's desire to effectively move that, I would encourage you to look at that particular position as well, because one does correlate with the other, because we did want to show that this senior assistant city attorney position is effectively a step up from the assistant city attorney position. But I would also defer to the expertise from the city attorney, as she's done some research and talked to some of her peers concerning these situations. But it is merely a policy issue if the board wishes to shift any of these positions for that matter.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. And after she responds, I also want to follow up with a couple other observations.
As it relates to the position that is a level 23 for the new assistant city attorney, the market study, or just calling around to other governmental attorneys' offices, this will allow us to advertise for an attorney with somewhere between 3 to 5 years experience, which isn't a lot, but it's what I was giving and I can work with it. Looking at, and I never compared the position of the senior assistant city attorney, which would be a promotion for Ms. Busby, and would also alleviate the compression that Mr. Evans talked about as it relates to the labor attorney and then her position. I did not look at the level 28 for the assistant public works director, but in looking at that now, I do agree. I had a small conversation with the finance director at some point when we were going through the reclassifications, and he also was of the opinion that we could look at some of the funding that the board has allocated Mr. Evans in that $300,000. However, I would not be opposed to making the senior assistant attorney the same classification as the assistant public works director, based on the number of years of experience that Ms. Busby has, both outside, five years or so with the city, and then about 13 years total experience. I definitely think she's worth that.
If not more, in my opinion. Madam Chair, to follow up.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Manager, in these classifications, I know you eliminated the second position inside of Public Works. Is that not indicated here?
I believe the operations.
If not, I didn't see it.
Doesn't seem to be.
It would have been, for me, to kind of know what that position was, being that we're essentially removing that operations manager position and now adding in the assistant public works director position.
Said that. Eureka Young, Human Resources Department, the Public Works Operations Manager position was eliminated, and we added the Assistant Public Works Director position.
Do you have a, what was the pay grade in the minimum and max on that? Do you know?
For the Assistant Director?
No, for the operations manager.
I can tell you in one moment.
grade 22.
Okay. 73, well, 74 roundabout.
I'm sorry, grade 21, $69,769 is the mid, and the max is $104,654.
So is it, help me understand, Mr. Manager, so we didn't, so we just basically, we didn't remove the position?
We did remove the position, so it was a delete ad, so we deleted the Public Works Operations Manager position and added a Assistant Director of Public Works and increased the skill set and the level of expertise and professional requirements for that position.
Well, and perhaps, and I want your response or recommendation. So when we're making these decisions about classification and you're giving us our recommendation, should we be seeing the job description so that we know if the salary commensurates with?
That is all going to have to be part of a overall compensation and classification study, because based on the job description, we'll slight where these particular positions look or end up being. So we've actually done some preliminary reviews as to where the best spot to slight this position is based on market and industry competitors, et cetera. But we can anticipate, and we're going to get into more details in the workshop on Saturday about this whole entire executive and administrative compensation grades and classifications, et cetera, and your ranges are going to have to be modified, because right now it's providing us a situation where we're not as competitive as we need to be. So on a conservative side, we did place the positions where we feel the best place for them, but with the understanding that there is probably going to be a situation once we do appoint the human resources director to go in there and with a scalpel effectively try to correct some of these issues that we have. So for the purposes of adopting the budget and getting these positions that are much needed hired for, we wanted to go ahead and place them on a situation where we believe that they should be. Because if you shift and move another position, rest assured everyone in that particular range can make an argument why they should move up a grade, et cetera. So it is kind of challenging, but we are going to do a more in-depth study on it.
I agree. So this is a policy decision, and my question, and this is it, Madam Chair, for me, is do you support by recommending that senior assistant city attorney position be moved to the 28 to make it where we can get a, you know, I guess if we, I don't know, attrition the current person into that position and then be able to market to that minimum level of 78? I guess I'm asking is that, would you support that, or do you not think that's advisable?
For us, I think if it is the direction of the board, I think you can conceivably make the argument very easily that you can put the senior assistant in the 28, but then I would also recommend taking the assistant city attorney that's in the 23 and replace it in the 25. So that provides the flexibility for the city attorney to be able to market and get some folks with a little bit more experience, because our personnel items are quite challenging.
Okay, now, and this is why, you know, this is kind of good to see during the budget time, but I don't know about this, and perhaps you or Ms. Wynn could expound on it, but the paralegal position, was that not already in our budget? Was that position not already accounted for, or did that move?
The paralegal position was already in your budget. However, and Ms. Young can correct me if I'm wrong, I would prefer for that position to be an at-will position. And because we made it an at-will position, I guess that changed the classification.
Yeah, so what you're doing is you're moving the paralegal position from one classification list to another. It is going from a classified position to a non-classified on the administrative job classification list.
Okay, that's all I had, and that would be my motion to, if I can amend to move.
I just have a question and concern, knowing that there are probably a number of positions that are probably not where they should be in terms of the salaries. I'm just a little cautious about just randomly picking positions to bring up to par, whereas there may be several of these positions that need to, but because we don't have documentation to support what is the right wage versus what's already there. I totally understand where you're coming from with the Assistant Public Works Director position making way more. I mean, that just doesn't even look right. But I would like to have something more concrete to support changing just, that one. There may be others that need it as well, but
Madam
right
Chair?
now it's just, I don't think it's the time to we can't figure it out tonight.
But, okay, so what we were presented with was completely arbitrary. Now, what we did agree on, and I think it was pretty unanimous, it was a pretty good consensus that we had the desire to move away from outsourcing so much of the litigation. And I thought this is the justification as to why by adding an additional position. But if you look at the going rate for attorneys, I mean, I don't know how you can get somebody that has probably 19 years worth of education.
And I agree with what you're
and
saying, but I just
come in
don't
and get a
have that.
$78,000 position when solely the idea why we started this conversation was to add another attorney to eliminate outside.
But in terms of adding it, it would have been based on the salary of what was, in place for it to be provided. We're just gonna make up a number, or we're just going to.
Madam Chair?
I just think that I agree with the position coming, but I think to go along with what's here now, if we need to make some modifications later on, once we've gotten more information in terms of what is the going rate, or what's the going rate for the others as well, because I'm sure there's a number of people that could probably justify why their position should be more based on experience, based on education. And I just don't think tonight we have all the information to be able to say, okay, well, maybe there are 10 of them that we need to change. And I know we did the pay study, and that needs to be revisited. I'm just thinking maybe that's the time to do that.
So we accept this as presented and then come back?
Will we be able to do that?
You would be, and what I would recommend, and this is something that we can bring back to the board by virtue of a resolution, is that you can provide the city attorney additional leeway for the process as it relates to recruiting, because the policy allows for the city manager to give 10% over the minimum. So we can bring in anything above that, then it is required to take legislative action. So as we get ready to effectively recruit for these positions, we can, prior to the recruitment process, bring an item that gives the city attorney and the city manager some additional leniency to be able to post a position for larger than what the starting range is. So you pinpoint and you address that specific issue with the understanding that we will come in and address all the others once our HR director is seated and jumps into the compensation, because there is some challenges as it relates to this.
Ms. Lanier?
Madam Chair, I agree that this cannot be hashed out tonight. There are other positions that I see that could go either way, and to pick one position, to make a decision on one position among 100 that we have here, we're going to have this conversation in our legislative retreat this weekend. We can have further conversation with that. And with that being said, I'd like to call a question, please.
We have public comments first, right? Okay. Let's go to that, and then we'll come back.
Bonnie Larson.
Bonnie Larson. I don't
Good
really
evening.
feel qualified to talk on this, but I'm going to anyway, because I had some questions. When we read something like this, it would be nice for, I suppose, the Human Resources put this together. And when you have salaries, it'd be nice to put some commas in these salaries. I'm looking and I'm putting the commas in myself. That's what you do. And when you're writing out a dollar figure, my question is, are all these people, how did I even put this? Are all these people in place now? Do we have someone in each one of these categories that are listed here? Or are these what we're thinking about offering people who come into the city. I know what I want to say, but I can't figure out how to say it. It was just a little confusing to me. And also, when we have something like this, if we could do it for the layman in the audience, because I have no idea what AWHB are. And also, when we're doing a rate study or a salary study, we have to take into consideration, no two people are exactly the same. Nobody has the same education, experience, ability, etc. Also, we have something in Riviera Beach called a longevity pay. And I don't know if that's included in here or not. So when we compare, we have to compare apples to apples. You know, someone in this community is making $100,000 and we're only making 85, but maybe our $85,000 person has a longevity of 20,000 or something. We need to add all that in, and also, why do we still have that longevity pay? That's always been a question and I haven't had it answered. So I'm glad that you're going to be reconsidering some of these, and maybe if all of you can put down your concerns or whatever before Saturday, then I have a more concentrated effort on the salaries. It's hard to do something like this, but I'm sure you'll work it out. And but if you could tell me what those letters are, I just always like to know what those letters are. And are these? Let's say you have someone. Let's say you have here someone making $100,000 a year. Okay, here we have the police chief and the fire chief. Now the minimum is $111,500. Let's say. My question would be, where is the fire chief and police chief? Where are they in that range right now? Okay, thank you. If you can figure out my questions, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one question I had. So, Mr. Evans, the provision that you spoke of, that you said that the manager has to bring before the board anything above the 10%, is that exclusive for the manager, or does that apply for the attorney? Because it would seem that the attorney would make her own hiring and base offerings.
The way in which I understand it, and Ms. Wynn can certainly opine, is that it's vested in the manager. But however, if the city clerk would, or not city clerk, but the city attorney would effectively select who she would like, and then say, this is what we negotiated, and if it's within the 10% and the attorney says that person's worth the 10%, I'm going to go along with that, because she needs to be able to select who and how much she wants to pay folks in her respective operations. In the event she says, I want to take it to the board, I would support that with the understanding that we're getting competent and capable people. So, but the way the policy is it speaks specifically to the manager's authority to request of the board.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? All right, so we're going with the regular motion, and that is in place, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
No.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilperson McCoy dissenting.
Item number 8.
Resolution number 8919, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, confirming the maintaining of management incentive packages and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right.
So
Have a
moved.
motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item before you is to seek continuance of the resolution that effectively created the management incentive package. Previously, last year, there was an incentive package that was created for top-level managers in the organization, as it was tough to, one, retain and recruit individuals, but also reward them for their service in the organization. With other agency or with other unions getting 12% increases and your management staff getting 3%, the management incentive proposal was proffered and ultimately moved forward last year. In order to make sure that we moved forward in a transparent fashion and an abundance of caution, we did want to bring this item before the board to reauthorize, but there is some modifications that are associated with it. Originally, if I'm not mistaken, and probably just for clarity's sake, Ms.
Young, can you please just speak to what last year's package talked about, and then I'll get into what the deviation is from this year's.
Okay, last year package gave department directors and assistants $200 in either lump sum payment or towards their FSA, and it gave administrative employees $100 lump sum payment or towards their FSA.
And this particular proposal allows for personal time or PTO time that has no cash value. So the individual in Tier 1, which is department directors and assistant directors, would get 15 days of personal time, and Tier 2 administrative employees would get 10 personal option days. Those days do not have any cash value. It is intended that they effectively would roll over in the event that they are not utilized, but they, again, possess no cash value. But the biggest change in the policy is the buyback program. The buyback program allows for the individuals at a certain part of the year to be able to, as it stands right now, to be able to sell up to 80 hours of their vacation time. This particular proposal says that the individuals will be able to sell up to 160 hours, but the caveat is that they have to utilize 40 hours of vacation time. What we're seeing is that individuals in your top level management positions are carrying large vacation time banks. And so the longer those vacation time banks accrue and the longer they're on the books, the longer the liability is, because you pay it out at the rate of pay when they leave, not the rate of pay in which they accrued. But one of the things that we're looking at is to encourage, and you have to take 40 hours of vacation, and we probably will look at our personnel manual when we bring that back to the board, because that hasn't been updated since 1973, to actually go further to where you have to take more time to be able to cash out or sell out that 160 hours.
Yeah.
There is a fiscal impact associated with that, assuming that everyone cashes out that 160 hours or what have you. The fiscal impact's about $110,000, but that's the assumption that based on if everyone in the program utilizes it. If they don't, obviously the bank continues, the vacation bank continues, and your costs will be more expensive the longer vacation banks are accrued. So this is an incentive program. We've done some research with other public entities. They have management pay, they have other benefits, and so this is to attempt to recognize the work and efforts from your department heads, assistant directors, and your administrative employees. Staff is prepared to answer any questions, and Ms. Young, if I left out anything, certainly you can provide some additional comments, and then we're recommending approval of the resolution that's before you this evening.
All right, did you say if there were public comment cards? Okay, go ahead.
Bonnie Larson.
I looked at this, Bonnie Larson, I looked at this the other day, and I was going to look at it again tonight, but there's no backup in the book for this. So just the things that I had written down here. There's talk of giving a cell phone stipend. Why would that be? They have a phone, they have a city, I'm just questioning. They have a city phone, so why are we giving them a stipend for their cell phones? Severance packages, why are we upping their severance package? That means they're leaving, so why would we make that real attractive to them? And Mr. Evans, while you were gone, one of our acting city managers, Ms. Hoskins, she gave certain people a rather large increase in salary and this 10 and 15 days additional time that was later brought up. That wasn't a real acceptable or plan, so she had to stop it, and they asked if she was going to give that, if they were going to give that money back that they had gotten, and she said no. So they got it for several months. So we need to make sure that we didn't already give 10, 15 days to someone, and now we're going to give them 10, 15 days again. Is this common? Because employees in this position, some of these positions make maybe 20, 25 days vacation already. So now if we give them another 10 or 15, just seems like a lot, but maybe that's common. I don't know, so you have a better I mean, I defer to you on all these questions, Mr. Evans, but I'm just curious as to, is this what's done in other cities? And just some questions. Why are we giving them certain things here? And is this additional 10 days and 15 days, is that for all of our department heads or just the new ones coming in? And will this be an ongoing thing, you know, every time we get someone new? It's really hard to hire people for Riviera Beach right now. So I give Mr. Evans, I wouldn't want his job, no. But I know he's gonna pick the best people, and for the best people, you have to pay. So we have to pay, because that's what we want. We want the best people, like the woman who spoke tonight. I was very impressed with her, and that's a quality of people that we need, and you have to pay for that. You can't bottom line it. So I trust you, but I just have those questions. Why are we giving them certain things, and who are the staff which are requesting these things? I'd like to know names of staff who are proposing these things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes.
All right, Mr. Evans, do you have any answers?
Yes, Madam Chair, it is contemplated that this would be a benefit that would continue until the board effectively decides to not offer this type of package. With regards to if these benefits are offered, there's a litany of different types of benefits that are offered depending on the agency. Some agencies have where each department director is provided an employment contract, and in their employment contract it calls out things such as this, even, you know, vehicle allowances, other elements that we are not offering to our employees. So when we're looking at compensation in its entirety, this is definitely a recruitment tool as we go to fill some key vacancies in the organization, but also a retention tool as we try to keep pace with what the changing market is for executive management positions, because I can tell you, as we are actively recruiting for some key positions, there's some challenging things that I will present to you at your meeting on Saturday that would speak in more specificities, but it's not uncommon to have these types of benefit programs. And plus, the PTO time does not have cash value, but the other side of it is that someone can utilize that PTO time instead of utilizing their vacation time, and then you have a situation where your vacation banks accrue at a higher rate. So one of the things that we would look at in future modifications would be something that you have to utilize, 80 hours of vacation time to be able to sell back, no more than, another 80 for every hour you have to sell. You can sell back another hour. So there's some other programs and modifications, because in the long term, we want to limit our liabilities on the books. And if we look at other compensation strategies, the employees would much rather get paid more than have additional time off, because the reality is that most of your employees, probably for the last 24 months, haven't had much time to be off. So.
All right, questions or comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Worse than me there. Item number 8.
Item number 9.
Nine.
Oh, let me put my I'm looking at it too, and I saw an 8. Maybe I put my glasses on, I can see it's a 9. 9.
Resolution number 9019, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the hosting of 4 events in conjunction with Game On race events, Wendy Martinez Legacy 5K and 10K, Saturday, November 9th, 2019, Run Singer Island, Saturday, April 11th, 2020, Palm Beaches Triathlon, Saturday, June 6th, 2020, and Palm Beaches Triathlon number 2, Saturday, October 3rd, 2020, and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, we have a
So
motion.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, if I can have Recreation Director Mr. Blankenship present the next item.
Good evening, Council. Richard Blankenship, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good evening.
I wanted to put up this slide just to give you because we're at the point where we're asking to close this road quite a bit, give you some perspective of what we're talking about. This closure is behind the Ocean Mall, and it serves as, in some events, in these events, as the starting and finish line. I want to also show you what I'll just show you the 10K route to give you an idea of where the runners and these courses are fairly consistent between the triathlons and the road races. So it encompasses Riviera Beach, Palm Beach Shores, and part of North Palm Beach. The event maker in this case is paying all fees, police, every fee associated with the park fees and all that associated with the event. I'll answer any questions about this item you may have.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
the November 9th, that's on the island, that Game On race?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not in conflict with the Salute to Veterans event? Or do I have those?
No, it'll be the lead-in to the Salute to Veterans event.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because it'll be
So
over
the timing
before
is
that
different.
starts.
Okay, great.
And it'll hopefully bring a nice crowd to the beginning of that.
Yeah, good, okay. Just looking at the other dates.
What is the red dot? Is that?
That was me making a mistake on
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Blankenship. All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Yes. Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 10?
It's okay, we've been making mistakes all evening. Resolution number 9119, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the temporary closure of North Ocean Avenue for Toys for Tot collection event and providing an effective date.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Blankenship?
Council, this request comes from Das Beer Garden, which is they're hosting the Toys for Tots, the Marines Toys for Tots collection event. They're requesting to close the road. They're going to put a tent up in this general area in the road, and that's where a lot of the activities, the toy collection will take place. They're actually not in the park proper at all, just closing the road. However, they have applied to the city for our citywide special event permit. And they will be paying all fees associated with the event.
All right.
December 12th.
Any comments, questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Blankenship. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Yes. Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 11.
Resolution number 9219, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the temporary closure of North Ocean Avenue for Hammerhead Productions Festival at the beach and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, we have
So
a motion.
moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Blankenship?
Council, this is a makeup date for the Blues and Barbecue event. It was scheduled for August 31st and September 1st. It was already permitted, but they decided to postpone it due to the forecast of Hurricane Dorian. So this is the makeup date. So this is just to approve the closure of the road for this date as opposed to the previous date.
Let me just state what the date is.
The date is October 12th and 13th.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just that the resolution that's on the online piece here states, has the old dates in it. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I don't know if it was read that way or read with the new dates,
It didn't have any dates in what she read just now.
just so we have it right in the record.
Yeah, all right.
It didn't have any dates.
No, it didn't have it in what you read off now.
Okay.
But where are you talking about?
When you look at it online, it has
Actual-
the old, yeah.
So if it is the one that we sign, will eventually sign, Just make sure it has the right date in it.
Okay, so it's in the body of the resolution, is what you're saying?
In the body of the resolution, it says whereas
First
Hammerhead
whereas.
Productions, blah, 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 August 31st and September 1st. So it has to be changed.
Okay, so it will not be presented to you all to sign tonight? Once we
Right.
get it changed, we'll get it signed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Blankenship. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote. Well, that motion is approved with Councilperson Lanier out.
All right, item number 12.
Resolution number 9313, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the temporary closure of North Ocean Avenue for the CrossFit event on November 2nd, 2019, from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair and members of the board, if I can have Director Richard Blankenship present this item.
All right, Mr. Blankenship?
Council, this is the second annual CrossFit competition at the beach. It's one of only two that are beach-related on the East Coast. Last year was the first year they had over 200 competitors. It brings quite a bit of business to the mall. The actual event is in this general area under the shade cells, and it breaks out a little bit. And then they use for the road closure so that people can get safely back and forth, because they really push business to the restaurants and the shops. Again, it's November 2nd, second annual, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
All right, questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilperson Lanier out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 13.
Resolution number 9419, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement between the City of Riviera Beach and Palm Beach County to accept community development block grant funds in the amount of $166,375 from Palm Beach County for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the reconstruction of 26th Court from Avenue M to West 27th Street, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to establish project number 20001 and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair and members of the board, if I can have Interim Public Works Director Mr. Terrence Bailey present this item.
Good
evening.
Good evening.
This is the city's annual partnership with Palm Beach County for the CDBG grant for roadway construction. We will be reconstructing Avenue 26th Court from Avenue M as it curls up to 27th Street. This will be the continuation of our work in Monroe Heights, and it will be the last street that needs investment in that neighborhood. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey, we, I think, kind of just breezed over the subject of having perhaps a meeting or a mail out regarding this section of the road?
I'm sorry, sir, can you say that again?
The Avenue M on 26th Court up to 27th Street, we had a discussion about possibly doing a mail out and even possibly a public meeting exclusively related to that section. Can you recall that?
I believe there was a conversation. I don't recall whether there was a final determination, but again, we've got plenty of time. As this is just the grant with Palm Beach County to establish a relationship for the grant reimbursement, we're still in the design phase, and there are benchmark dates embedded in the grant, but we've got plenty of time for any mail-outs or community meetings for the project. Okay. We'd probably look to do it at the end of this month or early November, as your schedule could provide.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilperson Lanier out.
Item number 14.
Resolution number 9519, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing execution of Amendment 001 to the existing Palm Beach County CDBG Agreement number R20182001 for the street improvements along Avenue M from West 23rd Street to West 27th Street, and Amendment number 003 for Avenue O at West 28th and West 30th Streets, number R2019-0312, neighborhood improvement projects, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement amendment and provide an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Public Works Director, Mr. Terrence Bailey, present this item.
All right.
All right, continuing with our theme, these are the two ongoing CBDG projects in the Monroe Heights area. Due to the hurricane and some logistical issues, we needed to extend the time on the construction schedule. As I mentioned previously, there are benchmarks in our agreement with Palm Beach County, which requires amendment to the agreement to extend the project and its timeline for the time period proposed. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes,
Go
so
ahead.
this speaks of West 28th Street, and you just mentioned Avenue M, which is it?
No, the previous issue was CBDG FY 20. These are FY 18 and 19. So these are the two previous projects that are currently, sir, under construction that we're working on. So we're talking about, there's three projects. Avenue M, which is the future project that'll go under construction approximately March of next year. The two projects in this agenda item are the two ongoing projects in Monroe Heights.
Item 14 we're on, right?
Yes, sir. Well, the greater Monroe Heights. So Avenue O at 20th and 30th, many still refer to that as the Monroe Heights area. So when I say Monroe Heights, the larger boundaries of what is generalized as Monroe Heights.
Okay.
But it's those two projects are the ones that we've working on, 20th and 30th at Avenue O to N, and then 36th at N as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilperson Lanier out.
All right, discussion and deliberation. Discussion by city manager, item number 16.
FY 2019, legislative priorities, Riviera Beach.
Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item before you is to seek approval or comments with regards to the City of Riviera Beach's legislative priorities for the upcoming legislative session. Staff has identified some key projects and initiatives that it would like direction from the board as to how you would like to proceed to provide guidance and direction to our lobbyists both in Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. First and foremost, we identified water supply and water quality that talks about line system replacement with a nanofiltration membrane softening system, which is invariably a new water plant, looking at utilizing different technologies to treat our water and being able to address the future capacity needs. Another aspect is the parallel intercoastal water and wastewater main. We do have two crossings as it relates to water from the mainland over to the island, but we only have one wastewater main. Our concern is that the pipe is well over probably 40 to 50 years old. It is not a pipe that is directionally bored, so it's not underground. And the concern is that in the event that a ship was to anchor and damage the pipe, you have an environmental issue that would impact our water bodies as well as the ability to have folks stay on the island. So we have some serious concerns with respect to that. We can't even go in there and TV some of the lines and replace the lines and do some maintenance on it, as it is the major connection to the wastewater treatment system. So that is certainly a major priority and has been identified in previous budget documents as a priority for the city. Also, you have some aerial crossings where you have water and wastewater and stormwater infrastructure that invariably should have been buried but is not, and actually is adjacent to some railroads, roadways, etc. So we're going to look to advocate for some monies to effectively relocate and bury some of those utilities. Environmental preservation, to protect and preserve our aquatic ecosystem, the Lake Worth Lagoon. We want to do anything in our power to protect and preserve the quality of life that's uniformly enjoyed, and we have such a unique ecosystem there, and we really want to push ecotourism over the next couple of years. So the preservation of the water quality, things to acquire submerged lands, and working with our partners that are looking to do the same, whether it's the state, county, etc. Capital construction that invariably will result in job creation, finding funding, whether it's P3 projects for City Hall, library complex, public safety, etc. An opportunity for those P3 projects or some appropriations from the state and federal government, which we've been successful in the past to get some monies for the facility we're currently in today, and then also some monies that we've received from the state for the library. We're also looking at cybersecurity from public safety. That is actually a big issue that there's a lot of push both on the state and federal governments to provide some additional support and security monies for local government and communities that are challenged with constant attacks with regards to cybersecurity. The preservation of our neighborhoods, sober homes is a big controversial issue, as well as short-term rentals. The state has preempted local government authorities to be able to regulate those, and so we consistently need to take the argument to Tallahassee that we want to protect and preserve the neighborhoods within our community because they're not built to be able to sustain capacity numbers that you see with short-term rentals, and then the challenges that some sober homes bring to certain neighborhoods. Construction of modern public safety facilities. We certainly would like to move to a situation where we have an emergency operations center where we can look to construct a facility that would be to the current hurricane standards and have additional backup power and the opportunity and ability to house our community in the chance that we have an activation. Ultimately, always looking to preserve home rule authority. That has been something that has been constantly strained, especially with the new speaker. We can anticipate the push on local governments to try to preempt us at every opportunity that we have to govern ourselves accordingly. So it is important that we continue to preserve our home rule authority. Transportation initiatives, really focusing on infrastructure, how we can invest in innovative infrastructure, making sure that we promote multimodal forms of transportation, and then looking to be able to address the impact that we can anticipate with the state's growing numbers, with the population looking to increase to well over 22 to 23 million people here in the next 5 to 10 years. And we've always talked about the importance of affordable housing. The state continues to look at the Sadowski funds as a fund that they sweep for balancing the budget, so continuing to fight for affordable housing programs in our community. So those are some of the broad-based legislative priorities. If direction is provided to staff from the board that you agree with the items that are articulated here, we will provide more information and more specificities to our lobbyists with projects that in essence are shovel-ready or funds have been appropriated for the purposes of moving these projects forward, and how we can assist and see if the federal government or state government will assist us in funding some of these projects. Governor DeSantis has made it abundantly clear that his desire is to see projects related to water and wastewater and the preservation of our water bodies. So with some of the challenges that were attributed to
green algae or red tide. There's going to be monies that will be appropriated for research, but we do want to see about the possibility of the state or the federal government helping us with some infrastructure money to address the water quality in our community. We'll speak in more detail at your workshop on October 5th about the redevelopment of the utility district, and we're looking at long-term. So in a nutshell, that's the items that we would like to get some direction from the board, any changes, modification, direction you want to provide, or if you agree with the list as proffered by staff, we can then start putting together the white papers necessary and the appropriation requests that we need to get to Tallahassee. And staff is prepared to answer any questions the board may have.
All right. Do we have any public comment cards for this item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Comments or questions from the board?
Mr. Manager, I would just ask, can we see what it is that you come up with, specifically, as far as, those white papers are concerned? Because there's already been the revenue estimating, that has already suggested that there's not gonna be a whole lot of money coming out of Tallahassee. And, I hope that we're succinct and we can find something that we have a remote chance. I was looking, the appropriations requests are already going into the legislature. And while I would like to say that I can support everything, I mean, realistically, I think we have to get behind a few items that we know we have a good chance of, bringing back something. But that's a real long list, and Sadowski funds, I think we can probably strike that off our list already.
Well, and to your point, Councilman, you're absolutely right. The more precise this board is in identifying what your legislative priorities, the more pressure we can put on certain projects. And so there's certain things, obviously, from a broad-based perspective that you and your colleagues can communicate that, hey, we want to preserve the Sadowski funds, but that's probably where the argument ends, because realistically, we understand that the state is challenged with some revenue projections, and the potential for a downturn in the economy is still looming. So, and what I plan on doing is once we synthesize some of these projects, so when we have the discussion with the board on, for instance, the wastewater the water redevelopment, is to really focus and bring some good information to bear on that with the intent to really try to push that project forward. Because if we do move with a new utility district to include all the facilities, you're looking at well over $200 million. So if that is a project that this board identifies that put all the energy and effort, let's say on, the lime system replacement and, addressing the parallel intercoastal waterway item, those are a couple of big picture items that we can really put some pressure on and assist to get some monies. And our concern is that with the intercoastal wastewater main, that we really have no information on that particular piece of infrastructure, and it's concerning that the only way to effectively check that main out is to effectively construct another main so we can go in there and inspect it and see about the what needs to occur, because in the event it does fail, you would have an environmental catastrophe.
I like that project. That's obviously the whole entire operation. I think that definitely should be top, if not top, of our priority list, because if there's a failure there, then essentially I don't know what we would do as far as people living on the island. So I definitely would support that being one of our top priorities.
Hey, anyone else? So, Mr. Evans, from this particular list here, we'll have an opportunity to discuss more or to narrow it down.
What I'm going to do is, since committees are already starting, I'll focus on the water supply and water quality projects, and drill into more specifics on that. But then we will communicate to the lobbyists that these are just broad-based, but not they're priorities, but they're not your number one priorities. But specifically, we want to look for monies for water quality items, and that will be a focus of this board.
And I think the public safety one, we still would probably want to keep as well, at the top of the list.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
we have one immediate need for pressure to be brought to bear on the Department of Economic Opportunity, Ken Lawson. We have a $3+ million grant in front of them, and I think recently the governor decided to focus on something else, and anything our lobbyists can do to help us would be appreciated. It's not a grant that will come directly to the city. It's a grant that we're doing in collaboration with Palm Beach State College, Inlet Grove High School, and the city for workforce development. So.
And certainly what I will do is once we develop these white papers on these items, is I will copy the board on all those white papers, and then specific topics will give you all speaking points. So in the event that you make the call to any members of the delegation, or you take a trip up to Tallahassee, you have, you know, the fact sheet, a one-page fact sheet of things that they need to know and things that you can communicate with them. So we'll put in a consolidated version, so you don't have to flip through maybe 10 to 15 pages of an item.
Excuse me, Doc, the Botel, the economic opportunity, who's doing that?
If I may, the college wrote the grant. We provided letters of support, and the college submitted it a couple of weeks ago. And it's to provide money to update the facilities at Inlet Grove so that we can provide better training in the marine industry.
Okay.
All right, anyone else regarding this item? All right. Thank you. Discussion by city attorney.
No, Madam Chair.
City council committee reports.
Madam Chair, I attended the Palm Beach North Economic Development Committee on September 26th, and we discussed the logistics initiative as well as the Smart and Connected Region grant that we received, the paper, the strategic plan that we wrote as a group, and I would encourage my colleagues to take a look at that. It's online, and it really informs the work that the Palm Beach North Chamber is doing in those areas. I also attended the North County Intergovernmental meeting on the 30th, and we had a presentation from Mr. Bob Mino from the BDB with regard to life sciences advancements in the area, and from Dr. Kim Delaney about regional transportation.
All right, Mr. Evans, under your discussion, they had number 16 under your part about discussion. So did you have anything else to add?
The port?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we'll go back to you for that.
We have just received notification from our lobbyists that the port is advocating for a modification.
Wait a minute, hold on, we're gonna do like we do in school. He's talking about the port. There's an item for tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, the local legislative delegation of Palm Beach County will be meeting to hear about some local bills that may make its way up to Tallahassee. The port has submitted a request to effectively remove the language that puts a cap on their ability to levy no more than $200,000, to actually see it change from 200,000 or 2 mils to actually remove the cap of 200,000 and change it to 0.25 mils. That was provided to us as of today. Mr. Sherman is providing me some information as it relates to the fiscal impact. From our standpoint, we are in opposition of that particular approach, as it will increase taxes to the residents of this community. And the port has situations where, as they communicated to us, that they have utilized their existing network of partners and relationships to pride themselves effectively on running a operation that doesn't necessitate the use of ad valorem revenue. And so from our standpoint is we don't want to see a situation where it provides for a unlimited source, because that point 25 mills doesn't speak to their ability to continue to increase over over any specific period as to where we as a local government are restricted to 10 mills. So we will respectfully voice our concern with regards to the ability to see that $200,000 cap removed and to allow for the flexibility to continue to increase if they so choose.
Mr. Evans, regarding that, so the meeting is tomorrow, and you all will present the position. What happens from there?
From there, that the delegation will determine whether it's something that they would take up either in committee or take it for further discussion, or decide not to continue it on any further. So it's something that was provided to us late this afternoon by our lobbyists. They have made some contact with some members of the delegation, and they've requested that myself or any representative from the city be present to speak in opposition to that. Some local mayors have already communicated in writing their concern with respect to the removal of that cap and what that fiscal impact would be to the taxpayers in their respective community and us as well.
The thing, okay, so they have the authority to tax, but they have not utilized that since 1975,
That's
right?
correct.
And so I think, what is it? It's a 2 mil, they're not to exceed 2 mils. They want to decrease it down to 0.25, right? But the cap, no, it says not to exceed 2.5. But that $200,000 cap that they imposed, or whoever imposed back in 1975, I mean, let's think about it. We have a lot of, as we heard tonight, we have stuff back from 1973, which probably are outdated, but we just have not gone back to revise any of that. So in 1975, I mean, I'm sure $200,000 wasn't considered $5 million back then, but obviously $200,000 in 1975 is different from $200,000 today. So I'm trying to get a better understanding as to what it says not to exceed 0.25. They're dropping from 2 to 0.25. So what is outside of the 200,000
Well,
I'm not.
So in 75, we didn't have the development we have now. So if they go back to a $250,000, they essentially want to remove that $200,000. But guess what has going to happen? If they were to levy, let's say $250,000, they're probably looking at raising. I mean, and let me tell you, the Port District, as you know, is very unique. It starts up near Donald Ross, right? And it comes down through Central Florida and it shoots out west to the Glades area. So we would essentially be well above. I mean, it'd probably be $4 million, $5 million that they could possibly levy. I'm glad this came up right around the time when we have to have the conversation about what we're really going to do with them, because I hope their intentions, and I'm glad we can say this now because, and not Saturday, is that their intention is to expand their port, which is possibly going to limit the amount of development we do with our CRA, and also taking properties off of the tax roll. So I'm glad that came up. In fact, I'm trying to remember, Councilwoman Chair, this happened back in 2000 and I want to say 13 or 14 when I was working in the legislature. They did a local bill to increase their salaries and also to exempt themselves from having to go through permitting. So that would have been nice to have heard when we were in the meeting with them on Monday night.
And I agree with that, because that was one of the questions I had. We just met on Monday, and then this came today, so I wasn't sure as to why we didn't talk about it, because we could have talked about it on Monday while we were all there.
I'm going to make it a preference to reach out to both our state rep and our state senator to tell them that I don't support it. So I would encourage the other members to as well. I don't think I can make it in the morning, but
And I will send you the information that was provided to us later on this evening, so you have that, and it shows the the specificities and the language that they're looking to remove. But to Councilman McCoy's point, it does allow for the ability to levy well over a couple of millions of dollars. So I think that's the intention behind that, but.
All righty. All right. Any comments from the board? Do we want to go down the line? Everybody's so quiet tonight. Councilman Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to announce that I had a very successful and productive meeting with Principal Granger over at Mary McLeod Bethune. And I would just encourage my colleagues to look into possibly adopting a school. I wanted to talk about this at our workshop just briefly this Saturday, to talk about how we can actually adopt a school and what that looks like, because we kind of formulated some ideas together, and to see what each colleague or councilman can actually do for these specific schools. They really need a lot of support and help in the community. We have 2 events that I'm actually going to be hosting. The benefit that we have is our community benefits that we've been given. And what I've looked to do is actually partner with nonprofits to creating actual tangible events here in the community. So we're going to have a nonprofit startup symposium to actually teach our residents how to actually start a nonprofit, how to get through the local, state, and federal rules and regulations of a nonprofit, and what are the best practices for the back office. The dates are going to be October 21st, 28th, and November 4th. Those are going to be Monday nights at 6:30. We're going to meet and greet from 6:30 to 7, and then the presentations will be from 7 to 8. We're asking all of our residents to please register because there's limited space. We're actually having it right here in the chambers. They can actually register by contacting Mr. Super A. Jackson at 561-346-2026. We have some limited spaces, so please, if you guys would like to register for that, that's going to be one event. And then we also have Senior Day. It's going to be a senior luncheon and fun day that we're going to be hosting. That is going to be at the Marina on October 15th. We partnered with MAMA, Mothers Against Murder Association Youth Rec, to actually host this fun day. So it's going to start at 10 a.m. at the Marina. To register, you can actually go to the Lindsay Davis Center or, again, contact Super A. Jackson. Thank you, guys.
Go Super 8. He's the best. Councilwoman Lanier?
I have no comments.
Councilman McCoy?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Chair Pro Tem Botel?
Thank you. Just a reminder that our Singer Island Town Hall meeting will be on Tuesday this quarter, not on Thursday. Tuesday, October 15th, from 6 to 7:30 at the Ambassador Center. We have some wonderful presentations, including one by our city manager, Jonathan Evans. We'll be having a conversation about, come and see, October 15th, Tuesday.
All right, Mayor?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
All right, and nothing for me. We stand adjourned.